Update. My sister-in-law was jealous that I would give my mother-in-law grandchildren before her, so she locked me in the closet. I woke up in the hospital, and she begs for forgiveness and she said it was just an innocent joke. Part 3. My mother-in-law, Pam, was the first to speak. She sounded really disappointed and resigned, saying she should have seen this coming because, in the past few months, Connie had been absolutely furious with me. The reason was that she felt I was rubbing it in her face that I got pregnant before she did, despite her being married for longer. She had even said she was very unhappy with the fact that I would be the first woman in the family to give Pam a grandchild and not her. However, Pam thought these rants against me were just harmless and petty, so she never mentioned them to us. She had no idea Connie would go this far, driven by anger and jealousy. At that moment, Connie started crying and said she hadn't done this out of anger, that it was just an innocent joke. She claimed she had no idea it would turn out so badly and that she had actually planned to lock me in there for just a few minutes as a prank, then let me out and apologize, not only for locking me in but also for her behavior toward me over the last few years. She said she had completely forgotten that I suffered from severe claustrophobia, and when she realized I had fainted in the supply closet, she knew people would think she did it on purpose. That's why she decided to lie about the previous night, as she was afraid of the consequences. But now, she didn't want anyone in the family to misunderstand what she had done and insisted it was just a joke and that she had no intention of hurting me. Unfortunately for her, no one really believed her because, well, it wasn't very believable. I was furious that she had put me through so much just because she was upset that she couldn't get pregnant, as if it was my fault. I hadn't even been rubbing it in her face. These are very common events that pregnant women organize, and they aren't meant to flaunt pregnancy in anyone's face. If that's how she felt, it was her own insecurity showing. Besides, what she had said about me being the first woman to give Pam a grandchild was simply disgusting, as this wasn't a competition or a race. The reality was that Connie was upset because she hadn't been able to get pregnant, and I hadn't even been trying, yet I still got pregnant. It's unfortunate for her that she's dealing with fertility issues despite having normal results, but that's not my fault or my problem. I had rested enough, so I was furious. The next morning, I told Connie that over the years, she had only been weird with me, but I had never done anything against her. In fact, I had always tried to be kind to her, but she was the one who constantly pretended with me and then talked badly about me behind my back. Even so, I had maintained my dignity and simply distanced myself from her, but it seemed she was never happy and wanted to create enough problems for me. I told her I could understand feeling jealous and insecure, but acting this way was just insane, and I no longer felt safe around her. I told her she was a horrible person for what she had done, and although nothing had happened to me, something very easily could have. I knew it wasn't a joke, as she tried to make it out to be. I knew she saw me as competition, but unfortunately for her, I wasn't competing with anyone, and she had no right to drag me into this without reason. Then I told her that I didn't want her to visit or talk to me ever again, and I addressed everyone else, saying that if they ever spoke to her again, I wouldn't speak to them. It was either her or me. That's when Connie started protesting, saying I had no right to do that, especially when it had just been a joke. I could see that both she and her husband were really worried, but I had already said everything I had to say, and they could keep shouting, but it didn't matter because I knew the rest of the family would eventually be on my side. Connie got too loud, and my mother-in-law had to intervene. She told Connie to shut up because this was just a consequence of her own actions, and she had lost the right to protest against it. Then she said something that surprised us all. She supported me and said I was right. It wouldn't be possible to see Connie in the same way because what had happened was simply madness, and no one was going to believe her version that it was just a joke. She then continued by saying she was going to cut Connie out of her life for now, and maybe in the future, they could reconcile, but at this moment, she didn't want anything to do with her. That also meant she was no longer going to pay for the IVF treatments, so Connie and her husband would have to find another way to sort it out. My father-in-law, who is generally quiet and lets Pam speak for him, also agreed with this. I'm not exaggerating, Connie and her husband literally exploded at that moment. They started shouting at Connie's parents, saying they couldn't do this because everyone knew they were really desperate to start a family and couldn't afford the IVF treatments on their own. Along with everything that was happening, Connie's parents had been their only hope. To give a bit of context, my in-laws are financially well off, but Connie's husband's parents aren't exactly on the same level, so they couldn't turn to them for help. Connie and her husband had just started a new business and hadn't yet managed to break even, which probably explains why they depended on Connie's parents for the money for the treatments. We didn't know that before it was mentioned, and it was a big deal that they pulled back because Connie had been quite desperate to have a baby. When Connie and her husband started screaming hysterically, Pam stood her ground and said that given Connie's current mental state and behavior, she thought it was better for her not to have a baby at this moment. I couldn't agree more. No one said anything, and Connie just broke down and fell to the floor, crying. It was quite pathetic to see her like that, but I wasn't going to retract my word. She continued sobbing on the floor for about 5 minutes, and no one said anything during that time. Then she got up, and I thought she was going to talk to her mother, but she came directly to me and started begging for forgiveness. I mean, she was really pleading, on her knees and everything. She said she was genuinely sorry for what she had done but knew that I could fix this by talking to Pam. I just had to do it. Pam tried to be gentle with her and told her that her decision was already made, and not even I could change it, but Connie wasn't willing to listen. She was simply hysterical, and I don't think she was in her right mind at that moment. It was a bit awkward, so I didn't even know what to say. I really felt sorry for her, but there was nothing I could do. After a while, her husband took her and made her stand up, and while she continued crying, he left with her, leaving us all to try to process what had happened. After that, everyone went home, and since then, it's just been my husband and me. We haven't talked about what happened with Connie because it was sad at one point, but now I feel a bit weird about it. I know what she did to me was terrible, but I was the one who gave the family an ultimatum and forced them to choose between me and my sister-in-law. That also meant she couldn't have a baby because there would be no more IVF treatments. So I've been wondering if I was a bad person for doing that or not. That's why I'm here to get an objective opinion. Am I the bad person for making my family and in-laws choose between me and my sister-in-law?